Hey everyone, whoever ends up watching this, I don't know, because I am really not one to go live on my business Facebook page. But I am compelled to share a little bit about what this past year has been like for me, and what hitting rock bottom really felt like for me in the backdrop of just a multitude of different changes. And just so again, so folks have context where this is coming from. This is I'm gonna just be transparent. This is coming from a challenge in a program that I'm in, to share this. And it's just like, believe it or not, I am somebody that is an introvert. I am somebody that is very protective over anything that's close to me. I think social media can be really invasive, and I'm actually not that big on sharing a lot of my stuff on social. However, if I do feel like this can grow me more than like anything else, stretch me a little bit, and maybe help somebody else, I always feel like sharing is helpful. So, I started my journey to a sustainable fitness lifestyle when I was 21. I was like, it's time to get it together. I saw I saw the future, I suppose, that was beholden to me if I didn't really make an intentional change. I was, I would say, an unhealthy 150 pounds. And I know, weight is different for everybody, but an unhealthy 150 pounds. And I saw what was coming if I didn't in particular make a change. Pre-diabetes, cardiovascular disease, just a host of health issues that people in my family, the women in my family particularly, maybe obesity, maybe not, because even those that aren't overweight or obese, which is most of the women in my family, and mind you, they were as slim as I was, growing up, suffer with obesity, and it is a disease. I want to make that very clear. It is a disease, but not a social indictment. I think that's really important. Regardless, even if that wasn't the case, I knew I was headed down an unhealthy path. So, I said, let's get to it. Let's start working at it. And I got myself to consistency. I, brought myself down to 140 pounds to start, and kind of went between 140 and 148 of strong, like of muscle, and really living this, food freedom lifestyle, as I call it, but to specifically fuel my body. I wasn't super restrictive necessarily, but it really was focused on nourishing my body, and that was the perspective that I came from. So that was most of my 20s. Had challenges, of course, but I will say, like I said, I maintained it most of that time, but I hit my lowest physical, mental and emotional state in 2020. And it's like, oh, well, who didn't, right? But, for me, that was the biggest challenge when it came to embodying everything that I preached, I suppose. And what should have been the happiest time in my life, and not saying that it wasn't joyful, wasn't, realistically speaking. I was pregnant with my daughter, whenever you may hear in the background just playing. I was pregnant with my daughter, but I suffered from severe sickness that some women may be familiar with who've had children, hyperemesis gravidarum. And it only affects about, I think 5% of women, pregnant women in the United States. So it's not your typical morning sickness. It is, it's severe vomiting, sorry to be graphic, and a lot more to come with that. I was hospitalized a few times. I could not even take a sip of water for a large portion of my pregnancy. I couldn't move. It was just miserable. Again, not morning sickness and nausea and, I can go to work and, I can work out. All the things that I said I was going to do, just couldn't do, couldn't stay active, couldn't remain as active as I would have wanted to during my pregnancy. And I lost 20 pounds. I lost 20 pounds within a very short amount of time, about a month or 2 months. And this was all while my partner was finishing his dissertation. And also just preparing to leave a job and to start a new company. And that was taxing, obviously. And I spent a good and then put all that, right, pressure, like, right, so baby on the way, job transition. I was also in job transition, around the time I found out that I was pregnant as well. So wasn't able to work, like I said, because of how I was feeling. And then insert COVID-19, 2021. I'm sorry, 2020. So this was 2019, I should say. This was 2019, and then insert COVID 2020, March 2020, right? I'm in the second to third-ish trimester of my pregnancy, and then all of a sudden COVID. And it wasn't like how we're experiencing it now. I really, people are going on with their lives now, or even as of like the past six months or so, right? 6 to 7, 8 months. This is like when it just hit and no one knew what the hell this thing was. And I'm pregnant, I'm immunocompromised. I'm like, what the hell does this mean? And it really threw everything for a loop. I wasn't able to go to work, or I asked to start working from home because I was realistically afraid. Mind you, I had started a new position too. So I was pregnant, getting ready to go on maternity leave with this new position, like was trying to play this whole thing right. And, COVID, and it's like, oh my God, I can't go to work. And how is my work going to be secure now? And if I have to tell, like, there was just so many different things going through my head. And I was able to work from home initially, but I was initially, furloughed because I wasn't able to be at work. Or I chose, I said, I can't take this risk, not knowing how this thing will affect me. So that was happening. And that affected everyone, right? Again, and I ended up spending my last trimester of my pregnancy into my first year of motherhood alone. That's just real, and alone figuratively, like, not literally speaking, and not figuratively in the sense of, I know I had support. I definitely had and still have support, and I don't want to make it seem like I didn't, but literally in a space where I was alone. It put pressure on my partner with his dissertation, and he's running around, in between states and all these other things. I spent it alone. And I fortunately was able to regain a good portion of my weight towards the end of my pregnancy, healthy weight, but still struggled after having my daughter with yo-yo weight loss. Among just the emotional throes of new motherhood. I don't know how many times we were in the hospital in the first few months just for different things, and that just new motherhood in and of itself is stressful, right? Let alone all of these different transitions. Being on quote unquote maternity leave when I was on furlough, like, what does that really mean? And do I want to go back to work? What is that going to look like? I was also really intent on nursing my daughter, breastfeeding. Knowing just all of the benefits, the like everything that I thought that I want was going to happen just didn't. Rug pulled out from underneath me during that year, no matter how optimistic I tried to be. So there was that. There was the fear of, even when I went, I felt the pressure to go back to work at a certain time when they did bring our jobs back, because I was like, well, I know the reality of, even if it's implicit, just job discrimination for, mothers who can't necessarily do the work or perform. And I'm happy to say that my employer really did support me. Like, I can't say that they didn't. Like, I really had that support, but that didn't change the fear. As much as, we had all these practices in place, how hard, and you guys, I'm sure, know it now, people don't social distance, and put into practice all of these things. So constantly in fear of jeopardizing a vulnerable young child, and, my older mother, coming home day after day, and just like, what is this going to mean? Let alone, trying to pump in, uncertain, pumping. Any new mother who's pumped already knows that that's like its own thing at work, right? And in my type of job that I'm on my feet, like trying to pump consistently with inconsistent hours. One day I'm at work at 6 a.m. The other day I'm at work at 12 midday. And you can't like show any of this, right? Like as a woman, you can't like really like complain about any of these things. You just kind of got to show up and get it done. And, let alone not having that like that facility that you're supposed to have that's private, sanitary, and again, insert like COVID, like pumping in a locker room. Like these were the things, and sanitizing every little, like it was just, it was a lot. It was a lot for anybody, let alone the continued job uncertainty of just seeing people continue to be furloughed around me. And, I had gotten furloughed 2 more times into 2021. And there resurfaced my anxiety. So I did do have postpartum anxiety. Was at risk for depression, but had postpartum anxiety. So, and I struggled with anxiety in the past. So, go figure, right? So it's like all of these different things, and of course, trying to just get back to some semblance of what seems normal was really difficult, let alone with wellness. But despite all of that, and I think that's the key, right? The despite. And I'm just really, really grateful to be here because I started again, I guess I should say. And, I decided to go back to work, like I said, not just for, financial reasons, but like for my own like physical and mental health to some degree, right? Like trying to figure out like what does that really mean? Because being home all the time, just stuck in a house and not being able to go anywhere and not being able to do all the things that I thought I could do with my newborn child just wasn't a thing. But I hired a personal trainer when I was ready to start moving again, which helped heal me personally. Like, as active as I've been, and I'm not gonna lie, like that's been a huge part of my healing process and my recovery process, but I did still have abdominal separation. I did still have diastasis recti. But that allowed me to return to physical activity to start. And I did, and thank God still do, consistently breastfeed my daughter to this day, over a year later, despite that insecure access to pumping and this and that, right? Like, I just think about all of the times that could have just ended, just because it does for all kinds of reasons. And, this helped with stabilizing my weight and bringing my belly down. And I also, when more changes kept happening, right? Because it's like, I despite all of this too, despite the furloughs, I did get promoted 2 times at my employer during all the craziness. Like, I was like killing it at work. It's like the one thing, that I was still doing really, really well at. I was really killing it. And, despite I wasn't able to continue with my trainer at the time, but when I couldn't go to the gym, or when I didn't feel comfortable going, staying at the gym, I did virtual fitness programs at home, like postnatal wellness, right? Even if it was like a 13-minute workout, I did it. And, eventually, and I will say this too, I did, me and my mother and my daughter, we all did have COVID at one point. And that in some ways brought on this sigh of relief, because once we were on the other side of that, and again, not saying that all of a sudden it was like, free for all, but, knowing what we knew at the time, it kind of made me like, okay, this was it. It's almost, it was like you kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, you know what I mean? And so that gave me its own sense of mental relief, like, okay, this wasn't so terrible, this wasn't so bad, and we still have to keep being careful, but we didn't succumb in the way, thankfully, thank God, that too many others have. But that was a sigh of relief. And so that kind of did give me this inner confidence to say, okay, well, let me start going back to the gym. And so when I did feel comfortable again, I did start strength training, and that really brought me to what is now my healthy and lean 135 pounds, And I realized that that's where my body wants to stay right now, and I'm perfectly okay with that. My goals are being strong and feeling good. I think that was really, really important. And after my last furlough, I kind of was like, I'm done with this. I'm not gonna lie. Mentally, the anxiety, all of these other things were just too much. So that, in some ways, all of these changes empowered me to finally start a new virtual fitness business, a virtual movement studio with my business partner. And, I was really just fed up with other people having control over my life in any regard. Like just so fed up, right? I couldn't control all of these moving pieces around me, but I could take ownership over my health and the health of other women, right? And going back to doing what I really felt like I was meant to do, but just still remain so scared to do it, right? I think that's probably a common sentiment for a lot of people in the past year and a half. And so, I feel like not just focusing on my physical health, my mental health, my appearance. Like, people probably even think like I cut my hair because of all this. Like, I really didn't. It wasn't like a big mom cut or anything like that. Like, I literally had like a hair issue, and I just had to cut it off. But still just like moving into this other transition and this other space in my life. And just having that control and stepping back into entrepreneurship, really valuing my wellness, because the irony was that my job that was supposed to be based on wellness was not making me well. And it was contributing to all this anxiety. So despite all the promotions, still got furloughed. So I just feel like taking control of that also helped ease my anxiety symptoms, honestly, when I was like, talking it through with whether it was my doctor or whatever, like these were things that were helping with that, because I was like, I don't want to be on medication. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't want, and I always say, like, well, if you don't figure it out, like, well, we gotta look at this. I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'd rather use the endorphins. Like, don't medicate me. I'm good. And so, I just felt like the best part, again, was just also being able to step into a space where I was helping women again in a really significant way, and in a way that I didn't even realize I had been doing in the past when I was, doing Build by Lady Fit full time. Like, I was saying, oh, this is not a big deal, but just talking to past clients and just hearing a little bit more about how working with them even 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago still impacted them today. I'm just happy that I was still able to know that what I'm doing has meaning and impact. So even in as much as like sharing on social media, like I want people to really know, I've been documenting my journey here and there on Instagram, and I'll like leave little tidbits and snippets, but I don't put it all out there. I just really don't. And probably I'm not putting everything out there now, which is fine, but for me, letting other people know that wellness is not this neat little box wrapped up with a bow is always what I want to be able to share. And that's really what I teach women. And, the lesson for me is the journey that this is. And that with each low, comes a new level. And, so for me, even though, I learned all this in my early 20s and I've been helping women know all these things, I feel like what I knew with strength training and teaching others with wellness finally, came to fruition for me. And not only kept me sane to some degree this past year and a half, but also like literally like helped me survive, like in real life terms. So, I don't know. I just hope this was helpful. I hope this is helpful for somebody. Hear my little lady in the background. I hope this is helpful for somebody. Again, I'm not, I really am not good at these things, whether people think I am or whatever. But I always hope that what I share can help somebody, inspire someone on their wellness journey. That again, it's not this neat box, but with each low, there's a new level, and that should really be true in anything that you're doing. So again, I hope this helps, guys, and I will see you soon.